Hey there, hope you're doing well. Welcome to Ask Daniel number 36, in which we are going to, as usual, answer a bunch of questions. I actually want to start with a success story. I want to start by reading an email that I got from Martin from Prague, Czech Republic. This was September 16th. This was quite a while ago. It was November, December, January, February, March, April, like about 8 months ago. All right, so let's read a part of this email so we get a sense for what was going on with Martin back 8 months ago. Here's my story. It started in July this year, just a few days after my uncle died in sleep because of a heart attack. And unfortunately, I started to think about it more and more and developed a fear of dying in sleep and was very anxious about it. So basically, since then, I've started to sleep less than usual, waking during the night often. I was really scared about this, so I tried to solve the issue with CBD oil, but it turned out that it didn't help me at all. Then my girlfriend suggested to start going to psychotherapy, which helped me get away from the fear of dying, but eventually the fear of not having a good sleep stayed in my mind. I decided to see my doctor who prescribed melatonin, but again, it didn't help me. So in August, I was very desperate because I thought I would not sleep any longer. I tried to solve my issue with alcohol and drugs, benzodiazepines, zolpidem. Then I realized this solution would not help me. I decided to see a psychiatrist who prescribed me antidepressants, mirtazapine, but after 2 weeks, I didn't notice any improvement. Since then, I went to kinesiology, auto-hypnosis, Chinese medicine, but again, it didn't help. I'm still getting very little sleep, approximately 2 to 5 hours. And it seems bizarre because I noticed that just after I finally fall asleep, I start dreaming. Then I wake up, check the time, etc. It says here, you get a clear picture of what was happening to Martin and really was down that insomnia rabbit hole and was trying all kinds of things and was not sleeping well. That was 8 months ago. Now, fast forward to 5 days ago, we have a comment on Ask Daniel number 34 from Martin, who says the following. Hi, Daniel. It's been almost 8 months since I had trouble sleeping. That lasted 4 months. Thanks to you and your videos, I'm sleeping more than ever. During the last 8 months, I only had a few nights when I was sleeping badly. And I really want to thank you again for your help because you made my life better. And I'm honestly so grateful for that. Keep up the good work. And I'm not reading this, to toot my own horn here. I'm just so excited that Martin is sleeping better. And we don't, Martin is not sharing exactly what helped, but, he listened to my channel. You guys know what I always talk about. And I bet that, moving away from all that experimenting, all the medications, all the supplements, and, spending less time in bed and et cetera, what I always talk about here was what helped Martin go from where he was 8 months ago to sleeping more than ever at this point in time. Super excited. And Martin, if you hear this, so grateful for you sharing this. And anybody else who's out there, if you can come back like 8 months from today, a year from today, or 2 years from today, that would be amazing. Okay. That said, we are going to move on to another email. And now we're going to do something a little bit differently than usual. What happened was that DI sent me an email 2 days ago and really wanted to connect with Pexi. And for those of you who don't know Pexi, Pexi has contributed a lot to this channel. There is an episode that's called Pexi Beats 13 Years of Insomnia. And a lot of people actually, Pexi's message, very, very how should I put it? No nonsense. Pexi's just like, spend less time in bed and forget about the whole thing. Don't research, etc. And you're going to do well. That message resonates with a lot of people, the kind of tough love, just do it kind of thing. So a lot of people ask for Pexi's input. So I connected with Pexi and said, hey, how about if I read the questions from DI and then you can comment on this video? And Pexi said, sure. So let's do that. Here we are. Okay, so this is the email from DI that we're looking for Pexi's comments on. Let's see. Okay, let me just read the whole thing. The main thing recommended and taught to people who are dealing with sleep issues seem to be CBTI advice, cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia. That entails restriction of time in bed, leaving the bed when unable to sleep, along with avoiding electronics at bedtime and any such things in bed. Everything mentioned above has completely backfired on me, and I've gone through many sleepless nights as a result, sometimes sleeping once in 4 days. Every time I would go to bed, that would make me anxious precisely because of the advice to leave the bed in 20 minutes if not sleeping, as well as not to do anything and like using the phone, which only created sleep pressure over time as I went to bed, because according to the device, bed is for sleep only. Recently, I saw the video featuring Pexi's story and found it amazing because I thought and found that exactly as him. I only ever sleep well, or even at all if I don't care about not sleeping. Now, what I want to ask Pexi to please explain a bit further of his routine is to clarify if my newfound plan of being in bed every night to rest, not necessarily to sleep in a 6-hour window, is the right understanding of it. So, should I just go to bed to rest by laying down at the same time every day and get up at the same time always without even caring if I slept or not? Would you go to bed at 11 no matter what? What exactly is your mental approach to sleep right now? Thank you so much for reading this, Daniel and Pexi. So again, question Pexi here is, should DI just like spend 6 hours in bed, just lay down no matter what, go to bed exactly the same time, get up the six hours later, and kind of not care if he sleeps or not? And again, what is your mental approach to sleep right now, Pexi? And there was one follow-up question as well here, where Dia said, I wonder if going to bed at a fixed time is a form of control as well, or is that a good thing? So should DA really keep that fixed time in bed? And I said to DA that I'm not going to comment on this so that I don't in any way influence what Pexi is saying, because really DA wanted Pexi's opinion. So we look forward to that. All right, cool. So we did that a little bit differently. And now we're going to do what we usually do, which is go over our questions one by one. So the first one is from Georgie, who was worried about like insufficient sleep causing like muscle loss. We talked about that last episode. Now, let's read this. Thanks to you for answering my last question, Daniel. I've started sleep restriction. I've gone from being in bed 10 to 12 hours and sleeping just 4 to 5 to being in bed 7 hours and sleeping 6 hours or more. I've improved so much in just a few days. Can this be normal? Because I have a small bit of fear that it can't be right. Something's going to go wrong somewhere. I've been riding the wave, like you said, and telling everybody how good my sleep is. I've stopped taking melatonin, magnesium, lavender pillow spray, and shower gel, and stopped using my weighted blanket. One problem I still have is I wake up after 2 hours of sleep to go to wee, and when I go back to bed, I get restless legs, so I leave my bedroom and go downstairs. It can be frustrating because my mind is tired, but my legs make it impossible. So when I'm waiting, I look at your videos to keep me calm. It usually lasts half an hour. Do you know anything that helps restless legs? I only developed it since off the tablets. All right. So firstly, I'm super excited that you're spending 7 hours in bed and you're sleeping 6, as opposed to spending 10 to 12 hours and sleeping 4 to 5. It wouldn't surprise me if in reality what is happening is that let's use this as an example. Let's say somebody spends 12 hours in bed but sleeps 6, so 50% of the time. Well, guess what? That sleep that person gets is going to be very superficial and fragmented, and they're going to be in and out of sleep. So it's going to feel like they slept 3 or 4 hours, right? But if somebody spends 7 hours in bed and sleeps 6 of those, that's like 87% of that time. It's going to feel like they sleep the whole 6 hours. So it may be that you sleep the same amount. It's just that you get it in one nice solid chunk, and it feels much better. And I don't think there's any mystery here at all. I think the fact that you're sleeping better is, I'm sure, because you're spending less time in bed, and also because you're not trying to sleep as much. When you're spending that much time in bed, you're like trying to sleep, and the less you try, the better sleep you get. Now, restless legs, I mean, there is a condition called restless leg syndrome, which really is more of like when somebody, again, for anyone out there, I didn't do my disclaimer, I do it now here. If anybody has any health concerns, you got to talk to your doctor, of course. Restless legs is when typical restless legs is when somebody has this like tingling, uncomfortable sensation from their lower legs, about the time when they're about to go to bed, in the evening. They have to kind of walk around to calm their legs down, and then it usually does not bother people so much once they fall asleep. That's kind of classic restless legs. Now, I don't know what's happening in your case, Georgie, but one thing that I definitely know is that hyperarousal, when you are a little bit preoccupied, you're doing better, but you're not at a point where you're sleeping really well. You're not at a point where you're like completely not worried about sleep at all, right? So there's probably some hyperarousal, a little bit of preoccupation going on, and that hyperarousal can create all kinds of things: tingling, like pressure, palpitations, so hyperarousal could also be a culprit. And when you read something like this, and when it comes to hyperarousal, and I want to say, when things are starting to go well, you're seeing improvement, but this one thing is not doing well, or this other thing is not going well right now, the best thing to do, generally speaking, is just keep doing what you're doing. Keep doing what you're doing. Don't react to that one thing that's kind of disturbing you. And when the hyperarousal settles, when you start becoming less worried about sleep, etc., everything tends to get better. So those are my thoughts on that one, Georgie. And then I think there was a follow-up thing here. I think let's just read it. I've got blood tested too, so if there's any cause for my restless legs, but it came back clear. Another thing, Daniel, is it okay to look at your videos for an hour or two before bed every night, because it calms me a lot? Thanks again for giving you free time to help people like me. It's funny, if you listen to that discussion I had with Milena today when she was a podcast guest, she kind of asked me the same thing. And I want to say this, that as long as you are learning from listening to my videos, I think it's fantastic. I actually think that there's somebody who we had a success story posted here from someone, I can forget her name right now, but she said she'd listened so much that she basically knew what I was going to say. She knew my answers, and we got into that point. I think it's, for many people, it's good, because then you truly understand what it's all about. So as long as you're learning, I think it's great. Anything, the caveat here is anything can become a sleep effort. Anything you do, with the intent and hope that this will make me sleep, is going to backfire. So if anybody listens to my podcast or watches my videos because they're hoping that will make them sleep, that's different. That you should never do that. You should always do something you enjoy before you go to bed. But as long as you're learning, I think it's great. Absolutely. So yeah, Georgie, I'm super excited you're doing better. I'm sure you're going to do better and better and better. All right. So with that said, let's move on here to a message from Camille. And let's read it here. Hi, Daniel. I came across your YouTube page and your videos have been incredibly helpful. Thank you. I've been struggling with insomnia and anxiety since the beginning of March 2020. I'm 30 years old, and for the most of my life, I've slept well, had good sleep hygiene, generally loved sleep. Even the feeling of escaping the day and falling asleep has always been soothing. So how did my sleep issues start? I had one bad night of sleep when I was stressed, and I overreacted. I worried whether or not I would get sleep the next night, or if I would be able to function through the day. That then led me to become anxious around bedtime because I didn't know whether I would be able to sleep quickly, as I had done so often previous nights. Then this quickly spiraled into anxiety in my high-stress life as a grad student. Didn't make it any better. I started working through the anxiety with the help of internet sources, therapists, meditation, positive thinking, acceptance, muscle relaxation, deep breathing, etc. My anxiety has significantly improved in just a few weeks. I was recently amazed at my ability to remain internally calm during even very uncomfortable, triggering conversations. My sleep also improved, but it wasn't long until I started having anxiety around sleep again. Thankfully, it's been mild anxiety, but it still affected my sleep. I did some reflecting, asking myself hard and uncomfortable questions. I came to realize that my recent fear around sleep is a result of me not being in control. A fear of letting go and peacefully drifting into sleep, as I always have. It made so much sense to me, because in so many areas of my life, I've had a hard time letting go of things and people, whether it's a broken computer, an old phone, my dog chewed up, a 10-year-old notebook with math problems, my 5,000 unread mails or a wallet that's falling apart, I tend to hold on to things. I don't fully know why, but the thought of letting things go makes me anxious. I think the same fear of letting go has now quickly attached itself to my sleep. It's quite relieving having this realization. But what do I do to resolve this and get back to having an awesome relationship with sleep? Thank you for your advice. Camille, I want to say, first of all, thanks for reaching out. And, it all starts with insight. The first step towards sleeping well is understanding why you're not sleeping well. That person who just has no clue what's going on, like grasping at straws, completely confused, they have a longer path towards sleeping well than somebody who knows why they have trouble sleeping. And, being, feeling that you don't have control and not knowing what's going to happen, sleep anxiety is really, that's it. That is why people have trouble sleeping. Now, so the question becomes, how can I let go of my desire or inclination to want to control sleep? Well, I think it's not complicated. It's not complicated. It's basically, you have to become comfortable with the idea of having insomnia. I know that might sound like, how should I put it? Very harsh, or very not very compassionate, but I think that is the truth. You have to become comfortable with the idea of not sleeping much, because as long as you are attached to the outcome, as long as you go to bed hoping or wanting to sleep, you are not going to sleep, And if you go back to when you were sleeping well, you were not attached. You didn't, there was no effort at all. You weren't trying to sleep, hoping to sleep, thinking about sleep at all, and that's where you want to go back. And you have to allow yourself to have sleepless nights and then see that nothing really catastrophic happened, And so, on a very practical note, how you do that, I think it's really what I always talk about here, like set it and forget it. Like, decide when you're going to get out of bed, no matter what, no matter how little you slept, you're going to get out of bed at, let's say, 6 a.m., right? And then you're not going to go to bed early. You're going to go to bed like not before 11. You're going to spend maybe 7 hours in bed. And you are going to not go to bed if you're not feeling sleepy. Wait till you feel sleepy before you go to bed. And you're going to try to enjoy the time before you go to bed, not the sleep hygiene stuff. Forget about that. Just look forward to a Netflix show, teach your brain that it doesn't have to be afraid of you losing sleep. And there will be this moment when you go, a period of time you're sleeping well, and you start seeing like, oh yeah, there's nothing wrong with me. By not trying to sleep, I'm getting better sleep. And then you will let go, you will let go of that desire for control. So I hope this makes sense, Camille. And I, again, I'm super encouraged by the fact that you have, what's going on. That really works in your favor. So if you have any follow-up questions, do let me know. Hope this helped, and I'm convinced you're going to get back to sleeping amazing. All right, cool. So from that, we will move on to a question. Was this a question here? Let me just see here. Yes, I think, yeah, exactly. Okay, so this is from Jilver. I am a 25-year-old male, and I had my first and possibly worst sleep ever. It started literally the day after I got an infection, cold sores. I had my first ever brain fog and terrible confusion. Luckily, it left after one day, but now my sleep is less than 3 hours with 3 hours. I don't feel refreshed at all. It's been happening for 4 weeks now. Every night, I'm starting to get muscle aches, twitching, delusion, cognitive impairment. I'm scared and don't know what to do. I feel like I'm going to die. Really don't know what to do. Thanks. Well, Jilver, I say thanks for reaching out. I want to say that what we read here is not uncommon. It's very common that somebody has some type of health thing going on, tinnitus or a sore throat, or, a bout of vomiting, and then, sleep well, it's part of that. And then the sore throat or whatever it is goes away, but you're still not sleeping well. What has happened here is that your brain has identified the lack of sleep as a problem, as a threat. It doesn't want that. It's trying to fix it, but the brain is confused because this thing that is locked in as a threat is actually not a physical, tangible threat. It's not like you're going to be attacked by a wolf. So when the brain tries to solve that, it goes into the direction of like trying to figure it out, like that we call threat monitoring. It's trying to learn about the threat. It's like reading up, trying to figure out what's going on, getting control over it, and also like trying to do things like trying to make yourself sleep, etc. That never works. So what basically happens is you're just trying to figure out what's going on. And in the process, you're giving your sleep more attention. You become more anxious. You sleep less. And this is like a spiral that leaves you with very little sleep. Now, as always, you talk to your doctor when you're worried about your health. But that said, muscle aches, twitching, brain fog, hard finding words, all those things are very, very common when you have trouble sleeping. And they can, of course, like when you sleep little, that can affect how you feel. But more than anything, I think this is driven by, again, that hyperarousal. When you're in this hyper alert state, it's kind of like fight or flight. Your brain's like just like trying to figure out what's going on, what the heck is going on, like, and then you feel everything, every little tingle in your body, like it's magnified. You feel everything, muscle twitching, everything is just so strong that it can, that hyperarousal can produce all kinds of things. Now, what should you do? Well, I think for anyone that has trouble sleeping, in my opinion, the best thing to do is what I always talk about here: set it and forget it. Set it means like, spend less time in bed, but also, Camille, who we talked to before, she knew what was going on. So for someone that has a pretty good idea what's going on, they can kind of go to a place where they just spend less time in bed and then try to forget about their trouble sleeping. But before you get to that point, I think it's really key to understand. And I think, you can browse this channel and like just listen and try to understand why we get insomnia. Where does it come from? Why do we have it, etc. And when you feel like, I think I get it, I think I understand why I have trouble sleeping, then you can just like spend less time in bed and try to like shift attention, do things you enjoy, and forget about it, so to speak. And that leads to a place of really good sleep. So those are just some general thoughts and comments. And I hope this helps, Jilver, and just stay in touch and let us know how things go. Okay. All right. So with that said, we will move on to, actually, let's see here. I don't want to forget about a question from Firas here. Oh, sorry, Firas. So let's do that one now, actually. So here it is. All right. Hi, Diane. My name is Firas, 42-year-old, and I live in Sweden. And I told Firas that I grew up in Sweden. So if you hear this, Firas, hoppas allt är bra med dig. Och som du märker pratar svenska. Now, I truly appreciate all your ad-free short videos about insomnia that myself desperately still seeking a cure. I'm settled in a small village. I have a steady job since 2013 and father of 3 lovely kids. But I'm suffering from psychophysiological insomnia, as you described in your video number 40. My anxiety tends as soon as I start thinking about sleeping or just reading an article related to sleep, like how a person with chronic sleep deprivation will increase the chances to develop cardiovascular disease, diabetes, high blood pressure. I tried CBT with my psychiatrist. It really helped sometime, but after a certain time, maximum 1.5 months, it pops up again and pulls me back to the starting line. Last night, after listening to part of your long list of videos, I started to minimize the number of hours in bed. Wonder if you offer any kind of medical support to assist me during the CBT process. And I told Firas that I don't do any like one-on-one coaching or anything like that, but I have actually several things that I'm going to start working with anyone that wants to work with me here. One is my app, Bedtime with a Y, and hopefully it's going to be out very soon, in 1 or 2 or 3 weeks, something like that. But anyone interested, go to bedtime with a Y, bedtyme.co, and you can leave your email there, and you'll get notified when that's up. And that's going to be, it's like a curriculum, every day you learn something, and then you have access to myself, text-based access. You just text me questions and I'll reply to you. And I'm also going to do like a video course, by the way, that's going to be up in a couple of weeks. But that said, let's just go over this and talk about some things. Firstly, I want to say, you get very anxious just thinking about sleep, etc. That is typical sleep anxiety. Nothing unusual about that. Now, but this is important. You bring up something that is a common reason people continue to have trouble sleeping, which is the concern that little sleep is going to cause you to have problems with cardiovascular disease or diabetes or high blood pressure and things like that. And the reality is that that's never been proven. There is no evidence for that. There's no evidence that short sleep or insomnia causes any health problems. There are a lot of associations out there. For example, having ashtrays is very much associated with having lung problems. But guess what? Ashtrays don't cause lung problems. They are innocent, And the same thing with sleep. It has never been shown to cause any health problems whatsoever. There are just links out there, but they haven't shown anything. In fact, if you think about somebody that has diabetes and cardiovascular, congestive heart failure, etc., do you think they sleep well? Do you think they sleep a lot? Probably not, right? So that can explain a lot of that association. And by the way, long sleep is much more strongly associated with negative health outcomes. So that conveniently, nobody talks about that because people are out there to get your attention, and they do that by scaring you. So I want you to know that, again, short sleep insomnia has never been shown to have any health issues. In fact, people with insomnia have the exact same life expectancy as people who don't. And then I just wanted to add, I felt there was one more thing I wanted to add here. No, I just want to say, I think you worked with CBT, which is different from CBTI for insomnia. So yeah, I think hang out here. I think we already talked about set it and forget it, and just now. I think that applies to everyone. And Firas, thanks for the support and stay in touch, and we'll go from there. Cool. So we talked about that, and now let's move to this question from Matt. And this is a follow-up question that came in 2 days ago. Yeah, there it is. Okay. Hi, Daniel. Are there any good ways to know when it is truly time to sleep and sleepiness has arrived? I ask because I notice that during bedtime restriction, I can still fall asleep within a sleep window or nod off before the sleep window, but this wouldn't necessarily be the best time to sleep. Why is it that I can fall asleep, albeit with lower quality sleep, without being terribly sleepy? I notice the more that I go to bed when merely fatigued versus sleepy, my sleep tends to deteriorate over the course of the week. I feel I need to be observant of when I'm fatigued versus truly sleepy, which leads to higher sleep quality. Maybe I'm just imagining this. Any thoughts? After seeing patterns in my sleep using a diary for months, I feel reasonably optimistic, but it seems my hyperarousal system doesn't want to make things too easy. Okay, Matt, this is a great question. And in my mind is going like in two different directions when I'm reading this. And the one direction is like to just go over what is sleepiness versus fatigue, because that's important. And the other, my mind is also going in the direction of saying like, it's probably better not even to try to figure out fatigue versus sleepiness, because you're just giving the whole thing more attention and just forget about that and stick to your sleep window and move forward. But and it's up to you what you think is best to do. And there are pros and cons with both. Like for a lot of people, particularly when they are starting to work on their insomnia, it is very important to understand what sleepiness is and what fatigue is. But after a while, if you're kind of doing better and you have seen improvement, you're trending better, then it may actually be better to like not even try to figure it out and just like do the forget it. Just like I'm gonna do what I'm doing and forget about the whole thing about trying to figure it out. And that could also be a great approach. So that's up to you how you want to do this. But to answer the question, fatigue is that feeling of being like drained and exhausted and tired and not having any energy, right? And it's basically your body telling you that you either need to rest, or in my opinion, actually, for most people, more commonly, that you need to be more active, So that's fatigue. And fatigue does not mean that your body wants you to sleep, right? And then we have sleepiness. And sleepiness is when your eyelids are feeling heavy, when you're kind of desiring sleep. You kind of, I wish I could sleep right now. Or, for a lot of people with trouble sleeping, you don't actually, you're so hyper aroused that you don't have that, like my eyelids are heavy kind of feeling. It's more like lapses almost, that you're just like doing something, then you're like, oh, I think I fell asleep. Oh my gosh, I fell asleep. Or like you're watching TV or something, that's like, oh, that skipped ahead. But those are also signs that you are sleepy, that your body wants you to sleep. Now, should you, I think you know this, Matt, but for anyone out there, like if you are having trouble sleeping and you're working on it, then sometimes you are sleepy when it's not time to sleep, in the morning or day or in the evening. You should get on your toes and not sleep at that time. But I hope I made it clear what sleepiness versus fatigue is. And maybe I'm just imagining this, like when you read this, that's when I thought like, yeah, maybe you're paying too much attention and you should actually kind of just forget about it, or again go the other direction of being like, I'm only going to go to bed when I'm sleepy, not fatigued. So overall, what I want to say is like, it seems like you're doing better and better. You're seeing improvement, which is amazing. The trajectory is there. And so whatever you do, honestly, Matt, I'm confident you're going to get better and better. That said, thank you for this question and stay in touch. Cool. All right. So we have, I think, just one more question. Oh my gosh, I missed all these live questions here. Sorry about that. Let's go over those now. Firstly, Ivan, hey, I'm taking mirtazapine for insomnia. Does it actually stop the hyperarousal, or is it merely just suppressing the symptoms, as in deal with the symptoms but not the root cause? I don't really know if it's worthwhile to stop taking mirtazapine and try to practice sleep restriction. Do you think it is worth coming off mirtazapine, which works like a charm, and practice sleep restriction? I can't seem to weigh the pros and cons properly. Okay, all right. Okay, so what does mirtazapine do? I think that no medication can really take away hyperarousal, because hyperarousal comes from your belief system, your thoughts, and medications cannot change that. They can just kind of sedate you so that when you take them, you're like, your brain is not really functioning the way it normally does, and then you may not feel as hyper aroused. But if someone takes the medication and is sleeping great, I think that the problem becomes if somebody's taking medication, they're sleeping great, and then something happens, some stressor, and then they're not sleeping great, and then it seems like it stopped working. That's a problem, because then that person doesn't understand why they have trouble sleeping, and they go, the mirtazapine stopped working, now I got to try this other thing, now that stopped working, and you're kind of stuck in this endless pursuit of something that will work. Okay, so what I do in my practice in clinic is, if somebody's taking medication and they're sleeping great, sometimes I just don't comment on it because they didn't ask for it. That's not what they're there for. But oftentimes I feel that it's important to tell that person that medications do not make you sleep. They do not make you sleep. They can remove some hyperarousal to allow your body to sleep, but it's always your body that sleeps. So that can help people transfer confidence, like this medication is not making you sleep. It's always every minute, second, hour of sleep produced by my own body. Nothing else can produce sleep. That internalizes sleep confidence. So I think that is super important. So I think it's just a decision, if you have no side effects, you're happy, life is going great, then maybe just continue doing what you're doing. But if you, for any reason, want to come off medication, then what's important there, in my opinion, is that it can never be trial. You can't be like, I'm going to try to come off this and see what happens. That never works, because if you leave yourself even the slightest option of going back, you're going to be self-monitoring, being thinking like, maybe I should go back, maybe I shouldn't, maybe I should have, maybe this and that. Makes you so hyper-aroused that you always go back. So that hope that helps, Evan. And sorry for being late here checking on the comments. And then it's Casinobi too. Hey Daniel, I've been using ACT therapy and it's kind of working. I've had it for 2 years, 10 months. It's pretty bad. I'm guessing insomnia. My main issue is sleep maintenance. Can you give me some tips? Hyperarousal is a major problem in my case. I have ADHD, which exaggerates it in my case. I've been reading Guy Meadows, I think, and I realized this is my issue. Well, firstly, I'm happy that ACT has been helpful for you. I think, you know, sleep maintenance is it's what's happening to you. Like you're waking up and not having that consolidated sleep, and hyperarousal is a major problem. So I think for anyone with trouble sleeping, if you have not done this yet, I think the best thing to do is spend a little less time in bed. You know, get up the same time every morning, go to bed. Not maybe like give yourself like 6.5, maybe 7 hours in bed, not more. That can really help you. Like your sleep drive, your need to sleep is stronger, and it helps you sustain sleep. For hyperarousal, ACT is helpful. That can work. I think that you know, working, it's really about thought work, that one. Like, but to give you something that's maybe a little bit easier and more practical here, I think journaling in a very intently journaling can be really helpful with hyperarousal, which means you pick 5 minutes during the day where you write down every single thing that worries you. You do that as an exercise. You do it every single day. That creates this outlet for your brain so that it doesn't kind of randomly bombard you with things that it's worried about, and gives you that outlet. I think that can really help. So hope that was helpful, Casinobi, and just stay in touch. Let me know if any other questions pop up. All right. And then we have, I think, a final question from Jade. All right, let's read this. Hi, Daniel. I'm a 20-year-old college student, and I have had insomnia for 2 months now. I struggle with both types of insomnia, falling asleep and staying asleep. I triggered my insomnia because I suddenly built a phobia of not being able to sleep. I've seen my doctor, and he prescribed me Zopiclone, 7.5 milligrams. I watched Martin Reed's and your videos on YouTube almost every night before going to bed for 2 weeks now. I saw some improvements in my sleep. You helped me change my beliefs about sleep. I made it 2 nights straight with 6 hours of sleep. However, last night, no matter what I did, was a sleepless night. No medication has helped. I know I couldn't sleep because I was hyper aroused, but surprisingly, I felt calm. I'm afraid I'm back to square one and that all the progress I made is now gone. My worst fear related to insomnia is to experience more than one sleepless night in a row, which would probably lead me to experience some kind of hallucination or memory loss. I don't know what to do. Please help, Jade. All right. Well, Jade, first of all, thanks for reaching out. Secondly, well done. Well done. You know, you found my videos and Martin Reed's videos, and you have not only, you have learned from them, and you've seen that it can help. Like, that is huge. So I think the first thing I want to comment on here is that this email is in many ways a very common one. It is the email of somebody who's like, I did well for a week, but now I haven't slept at all for 2 days, or I did well for 2 nights, but now I didn't sleep at all. Meaning it's a tale of, it's a story of somebody who started doing better, but then has takes a step backwards, right? And what is always so important here is the news here, the highlight. What we really need to talk about is that you slept good for 2 nights. That's amazing. That's fantastic. You know, you slept great for 2 nights, and that was not just some random thing. It's because you were starting to understand insomnia. You were starting to learn about it, you know, and that is the key. When you truly, fully understand that insomnia does not have a life of its own. It's produced by our own brains trying to keep us safe. It is fed by our attempts to escape sleeplessness. When you completely understand it, you see that there's nothing really to be afraid of, and then that's where you're heading. That's where you're heading. You're not heading any other place. And by the way, to answer your question there, and that's why, in my opinion, you're absolutely not back to square one, because you have learned things, and you're not gonna, nobody can take that away from you. You're starting to understand insomnia. No one can take that away from you. You are on the right path, and you still, in the progress is still there. You have insights that you didn't have before. And so I want to share this analogy, actually, that I haven't talked about in a while. I think it's a super, super helpful one, and it's from Sasha Stevens. I don't know where her book is. Oh, there it is, right there. Actually, is one of her books, Bedtime Stories for Insomniacs. She says this, that imagine that you are hiking, and your destination is a place where you're sleeping awesomely. You're sleeping amazingly well, right? And as you are on that hike, you will stumble. You will stumble on a rock or a root. And if you stop there, and if you look at that root and you wonder, why was it there? And you measure it, it's this big, and you question how you fell, and you wonder how you can adjust your pace or your stride not to fall again. Guess what? You're never going to reach your destination. But if you stumble, and then you say, okay, now I'm going to keep going, then you will get there no matter what, right? So whenever you have this kind of setback, don't stay there. Don't try to examine it, figure out what happened. Try to just keep moving forward. I think that is super helpful. Now, that said, now we've done the kind of big picture thing, a little bit of details here. First of all, you said, suddenly I built a phobia of not being able to sleep. That's really that's really the same for everyone. Insomnia is always driven by a fear of losing sleep, not being able to sleep. So that's an insight. You completely understood it, that one. Now, what else? I wanted to say, last night, no matter what I did, it was a sleepless night, and that sentence is key here. If there's anything that is, if I would say anything about sleep that is, that can never be overemphasized, is that the more you try, the less you get. That person who sleeps amazingly well, they do that because they're not trying at all. The more you try, the less sleep you get. So, you say, kind of, no matter what I did, it was a sleepless night. Well, it is a sleepless night because you try to sleep, and it's very hard not to try to do anything, but that is the key. So when you are having a sleepless night, you gotta do anything that has nothing to do with you trying to sleep. Just pick up a book, or do some dishes, or watch a Netflix show, or do something that has nothing to do with sleep, that is enjoyable, or at least neutral, that will help you more than anything else. And same thing with medications. No medication has help. Well, again, medications cannot produce sleep. The more you try, whether it's medication, supplements, whatever it is, it will, at least in the long run. We just talked to, who was it, who had a comment here, who's taking medication and seems to help. Well, in reality, medications do not produce sleep. For some people that are, let's say, not as skeptical, medications can seem to work because they believe it. But for a person that is more skeptical, nothing works. So for somebody like yourself, Jade, who is kind of maybe inquisitive, thinks a lot, a little bit skeptical, medications cannot work because you don't believe that they will work. So I think, I hope this helped. And, again, last thing here, my worst fear is to experience more than one sleepless night. That's completely understandable. But again, you have to start being comfortable with the idea of having more than one sleepless night. Because the longer you maintain this thought that if I have more than one sleepless night, I'm probably going to have something catastrophic happen to me, the more you're building that pressure to sleep. Like, I gotta sleep, I have to sleep, I cannot have two sleepless nights. And that pressure makes it impossible to sleep. Once you start becoming more comfortable with the idea of not sleeping, even for 2 nights, then you're taking a huge step in the right direction. Yeah. All right. So that is that. And yes, I just got distracted here. I just want to say, Jade, thank you for this, and stay in touch. Let me know if you have any follow-up questions. And then we have some more live questions, which is so cool. Catherine, oh, I remember Catherine, and now I wish I should. Anyway, let's just read Catherine's comment. She says here, "Hi, I've been sleeping since April of last year when I started taking L-theanine and GABA supplements along with my Seroquel. I went down from 100 milligrams to 50 to 25. Still need to take Seroquel to sleep. Always felt very alert, not tired. It seems since my reaction with the CBD oil and flonase spray." Okay. Oh yeah. Catherine. Now I remember, because who was that? It was Madison who was on my show, and she talked about you, Catherine. Well, I'm super happy that you're sleeping well, and as we talked about with Ivan here, somebody's sleeping well and they're taking supplements or medications, etc. I don't feel like there's any urgency to change anything. When people are doing well, that's fantastic. But I will say, like, the more someone believes that kind of an outside source is needed for them to sleep, the more vulnerable their sleep becomes. Because when you start not sleeping well, even on the medications, you may easily start to think, oh, this medication didn't work, I need this other thing, and you don't really build that sleep confidence, that belief that you can sleep well on your own, so just a little comment there. But again, Catherine, I'm super excited that you're sleeping well, and yeah, all right. So thanks so much for all the live questions, and for anybody that has sent me a question. Super grateful for that. And anything comes up, leave me a comment, send me an email. I'll be back Monday answering questions. And until then, hope you do well and that you'll have a nice weekend. Bye now.